My friends, the time for waiting is over. The time for action is now. We demand our freedom.
What if I told you the greatest threat to your freedom today isn't war, politics, or even technology? It's the quiet death of critical thinking. Imagine waking up to realize that most people around you no longer question anything, that opinions are recycled, narratives go unchallenged, and truth has been replaced by whatever trend goes viral. Scary, isn't it? But here's the twist: it's happening right now, and chances are you've already felt it. In this video, we're going to uncover why independent thought is vanishing, how powerful systems profit from your silence, and why even the smartest people are falling into the trap of what philosophers call collective stupidity. Stay with me, because the most dangerous force shaping your life isn't outside you, it's inside your own mind. And by the end of this journey, you'll see exactly how to reclaim it before it's too late. Imagine standing in the middle of a crowded street, surrounded by voices shouting, screens flashing, and notifications buzzing. Everywhere you look, people are reacting, liking, commenting, reposting. But almost no one is pausing to ask the most basic question: is this even true? This is the silent crisis of our age. Not a crisis of technology, not even a crisis of politics, but a crisis of the mind. A slow erosion of the very skill that once defined human progress: critical thinking. The frightening part is that most people don't notice it happening. They wake up, scroll, consume, repeat. Day after day, their thoughts are no longer their own, but echoes of what the world feeds them. And when thought becomes mere repetition, when questioning vanishes, society begins to drift into something darker: blind conformity. This is not science fiction. It's the reality we're living in right now. Think about it. Our ancestors survived not because they blindly accepted what they were told, but because they questioned, observed, and adapted. Every breakthrough in history, from Galileo challenging the church to Martin Luther King Jr. challenging oppression, was born from individuals who dared to think differently. But today, that courage to think is disappearing, not in a dramatic collapse, but in a quiet, subtle surrender. The danger is not that people are incapable of thought, but that they no longer see the need for it. Why is this so dangerous? Because when critical thinking disappears, so does freedom. If you no longer question what you're told, you are no longer free, you're managed. You're nudged by algorithms, swayed by headlines, manipulated by emotions carefully engineered to keep you compliant, and you don't even realize it. That's the most chilling part. People aren't fighting their loss of thought. They're accepting it as normal, even convenient. But here's the deeper tragedy. Thinking is hard. It demands effort, humility, and patience, qualities that our instant gratification culture has taught us to avoid. We are told speed matters more than depth, emotions matter more than truth, and agreement matters more than understanding. And so, millions of people trade away their greatest weapon, the ability to think, for the comfort of quick answers. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you truly reflected on an idea before reacting to it? When was the last time you challenged your own belief, not just someone else's? If that feels uncomfortable, that's the point. Critical thinking isn't meant to soothe you. It's meant to wake you up. And right now, we are a culture that desperately needs to wake up, because once thinking disappears, we don't just lose our individuality, we lose our future. Societies that stop questioning stagnate. They collapse under the weight of their own blind spots. And history has shown us, time and again, that civilizations fall not because they lacked information, but because they lacked wisdom. So the crisis before us is not silent at all. It's screaming through every headline, every trending topic, every shallow argument online. The only question is, are you willing to hear it? Are you willing to think when the world around you prefers you not to? If you've ever felt like something about the world doesn't add up, you're not imagining it. The truth is, there are hidden systems shaping the way you think long before you even realize it. From the classroom to your workplace, from the news you consume to the apps you scroll every night, your mind is being conditioned not to think freely, but to follow. Let's start with education. On the surface, school looks like a place to expand the mind. But look deeper. How often were you rewarded for curiosity, and how often were you punished for stepping out of line? Think back. Tests didn't measure your ability to question or imagine. They measured how well you memorized and repeated. John Taylor Gatto, a brilliant critic of modern schooling, once said, "Schools don't really teach, they train." They train obedience, conformity, and predictability. Children learn early that coloring outside the lines is dangerous, that asking too many questions is disruptive, and over time, they stop asking at all. And then you grow up. You enter the workforce, where the rules don't change much. Speak up too loudly, challenge consensus, or push back against authority, and suddenly your career is at risk. So you play it safe. You nod. You agree. You blend in. Bit by bit, your independence of thought is eroded. What started in the classroom is perfected in adulthood. Now add media into the equation. What you watch, what you read, what you scroll, all of it is curated. Not curated for truth, but for engagement. Algorithms don't care if you're informed. They care if you're hooked. And how do they keep you hooked? Outrage, repetition, and emotional manipulation. You see headlines crafted to spark anger, fear, or validation. You're nudged toward content that confirms what you already believe. That's not education, that's indoctrination, dressed up as entertainment. Technology, the very tool that promised to liberate us, has become the most powerful instrument of control. Every notification is a tug at your attention. Every trending topic is an invitation to react, not reflect. And every second you spend scrolling is another second your brain is being rewired to prefer speed over depth. The philosopher Marshall McLuhan warned us decades ago. The medium is the message. Today's mediums reward quick reactions, shallow takes, and instant certainty. They punish reflection, patience, and doubt. So ask yourself, who benefits from this? Who gains when you stop questioning? When you no longer pause to investigate? The answer is clear. Corporations profit. Politicians gain power. Institutions maintain control. The less you think, the more predictable you become. And predictable people are the easiest to manage. This is why reclaiming your mind is not optional, it's survival. Because once you see the systems for what they are, you can begin to break free. But if you remain blind to them, they will continue to write your thoughts for you. Here's a truth most people don't want to admit. Intelligence does not protect you from being deceived. In fact, some of the most educated, accomplished individuals are often the easiest to trap in collective stupidity. Why? Because human beings, no matter how rational they claim to be, are not purely logical creatures. We are emotional. We are tribal. We are wired to survive, not to seek truth at all costs. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman, in his groundbreaking work, Thinking Fast and Slow, revealed that the human brain operates with two systems. One is fast, instinctive, emotional. It jumps to conclusions and saves energy. The other is slow, deliberate, and analytical. But here's the catch. Most of us live in fast mode. We react. We assume. We take shortcuts. And in a world of overwhelming information, that fast system dominates because it feels safe and easy. The slow system, the one required for true critical thinking, feels like too much work. This is where manipulation thrives. Politicians, advertisers, and media outlets understand your brain better than you do. They craft simple, emotional messages that bypass reason entirely. They frame complex issues as black and white. They repeat slogans until they feel like truth. And once something feels familiar, the brain tends to accept it, regardless of evidence. That's confirmation bias. In action, the tendency to embrace information that supports what you already believe, while ignoring anything that challenges it. Think about your own life. When was the last time you read or heard something that contradicted your beliefs, and instead of listening, you immediately prepared your counterargument? That's not critical thinking, that's defense. It's the brain protecting its identity. And this is why even brilliant people fall into the trap. Intelligence often makes someone better at rationalizing their biases, not escaping them. Then there's groupthink. Social psychologist Irving Janis showed how groups, even of highly intelligent people, make disastrous decisions when they prioritize harmony over truth. Dissent feels dangerous. Going against the grain risks rejection. So individuals silence their doubts, and the group drifts into collective error. History is full of tragedies born from this very trap wars, financial collapses, even scientific blunders, all because no one dared to question. But here's the hopeful part. Awareness is power. Once you know your brain is wired for shortcuts, you can pause. You can catch yourself in the act of bias. You can ask, am I reacting or am I reasoning? Am I defending or am I discovering? This small shift separates the thinker from the echo. The psychology trap is real, and it pulls at every one of us. But knowing it exists is the first step toward freedom, because the mind, once it becomes aware of its own tricks, can no longer be fooled so easily. Why do so many people avoid thinking deeply, even when they know it's important? The answer is simple but uncomfortable. Because clear thinking comes at an emotional cost. It doesn't just challenge ideas, it challenges identity. And in today's world, identity has become sacred. When you question the beliefs of your group, whether political, religious, or cultural, you risk being labeled as a traitor. To think critically is to step outside the tribe, and that can feel terrifying. Human beings are wired for belonging. For most of our history, being excluded from the group meant death. That instinct is still alive inside us, which is why disagreement feels dangerous, even when no physical threat exists. So instead of risking conflict, people choose silence. They conform. They repeat mantras that don't belong to them because it feels safer than standing alone. But the cost of safety is enormous. The psychologist Erich Fromm once observed that many people secretly desire to surrender their freedom because freedom comes with responsibility. To think for yourself means you can't hide behind the crowd anymore. You can't say, I was just following orders, or everyone else believes this. You are accountable for your own conclusions. And accountability is heavy. It's far easier to let others do the thinking, to let society hand you ready-made opinions that you can wear like armor. There's another reason thinking clearly feels dangerous. It creates discomfort. Critical thought forces us into cognitive dissonance, that uneasy state when our cherished beliefs collide with new evidence. The ego resists this. The ego wants to be right, to feel certain, to stand firm. So when reality doesn't match our assumptions, instead of adjusting, we defend. We attack the source, dismiss the evidence, or retreat into distraction. It feels safer to stay blind than to face the pain of being wrong. And yet, growth only happens when we are willing to endure that discomfort. Socrates taught that wisdom begins in admitting ignorance. But look at our culture today. Uncertainty is mocked, humility is mistaken for weakness, and doubt is punished. Everyone wants to speak, but few want to listen. Everyone has an opinion, but few have understanding. This is why thinking clearly becomes an act of courage. It is not just intellectual, it is emotional bravery. It means facing the possibility that your tribe, your leaders, even your own assumptions could be wrong. It means risking rejection, criticism, and loneliness. But in return, you gain something priceless: clarity, self-respect. The quiet strength of knowing your beliefs are yours, not borrowed. So yes, thinking clearly is dangerous. It threatens comfort. It threatens belonging. But it is the only path to authenticity. And authenticity, though costly, is the foundation of true freedom. At some point, every awakened person reaches a crossroads. You see the systems that shape you. You understand the traps of psychology, and you feel the weight of the emotional cost. And then the question hits: what now? Do you go back to sleep, or do you choose the harder path, the path of reclaiming your mind? That decision is the turning point, the difference between living as a passive consumer or as a conscious creator of your own reality. The first step is awareness. It sounds simple, but awareness is revolutionary. When you catch yourself scrolling aimlessly, when you notice your emotions being triggered by headlines, when you realize your opinion might just be an echo, you've already disrupted the system. Awareness pulls you out of autopilot and gives you a chance to pause, and in that pause lies freedom. The second step is questioning. Not shallow questioning for the sake of rebellion, but deep, honest inquiry. Ask, who benefits if I believe this? Why does this message make me feel fear, anger, or superiority? Am I thinking or just repeating? These questions cut through manipulation like a blade. The act of asking is already resistance, because manipulators depend on your unquestioned compliance. Then comes the hardest step: detachment. You must learn to step back from the noise, from the endless feed of opinions and outrage. Create space to think. Read widely, especially from sources that challenge your worldview. Journal your thoughts instead of outsourcing them to algorithms. Practice solitude, even if it feels uncomfortable. Remember, silence is not emptiness. It is the soil where authentic thought takes root. But reclaiming your mind is not just about defense, it's about building strength. Train your attention like a muscle. Meditation, deep reading, focused work. These practices sharpen your ability to resist distraction. The more you master your attention, the less power external systems have over you. Your mind becomes your own territory again. And here's the most important part: courage. Reclaiming your mind will set you apart. People may not understand you. They may mock your questions, dismiss your doubts, or accuse you of arrogance. But that is the price of freedom. Remember, every revolutionary in history was first called a fool, a rebel, or a threat. And yet, it was those very people who expanded what humanity thought possible. The turning point is not about rejecting society. It's about refusing to be owned by it. It's about living awake in a world that profits from sleep. And once you reclaim your mind, you don't just change your own life. You become a beacon for others, still trapped in the fog. Here's the truth most people miss. Critical thinking is not a luxury. It's not a hobby for philosophers or an optional skill for academics. In today's world, critical thinking is a revolution. It is rebellion against manipulation, resistance against conformity, and the foundation of true freedom. And that's exactly why it feels so threatening to those in power, because a society that thinks critically is a society that cannot be controlled. Think about it. Every major breakthrough in history, from scientific discoveries to social revolutions, began with someone daring to question what everyone else accepted. Galileo challenged the church. Rosa Parks challenged segregation. Every leap forward began not with blind acceptance, but with courageous doubt. Critical thinking, then, is not just analysis, it's the spark that ignites transformation. To think for yourself is to plant a seed of change that can grow beyond you. But let's not romanticize it. Practicing critical thinking means struggle. It means constantly holding your beliefs up to the light, asking, is this still true? Does this still serve me? It means welcoming discomfort, because truth rarely flatters the ego. It means humility, the ability to say, I don't know, in a culture obsessed with hot takes and quick answers. That humility is not weakness, it's strength. Because only when you admit you don't know can you truly begin to learn. Critical thinking also demands responsibility. Once you see through the illusion, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to swallowing lies just because they're comforting. That awareness puts the weight of choice on your shoulders. Do you act according to truth, or do you conform for convenience? Many choose the latter. But those who choose truth, even when it's hard, become leaders not necessarily of nations, but of themselves. And here's the most powerful part. Critical thinking is contagious. When you dare to think differently, you give silent permission for others to do the same. Your courage becomes a mirror in which others see their own potential. That's how revolutions start, not with armies, but with individuals reclaiming their minds, one thought at a time. So yes, critical thinking is a skill. It can be practiced, sharpened, and mastered. But it is also far more than that. It is an act of defiance. It is a declaration. I will not be owned by fear, by propaganda, or by the comfort of conformity. I will choose truth, even if it costs me belonging. I will think, even if the world prefers me silent. That is the final truth. Critical thinking is not about winning arguments or sounding smart. It is about living free. And in a world built on manipulation, freedom itself is the most radical revolution of all.